Ma'at brothers and sisters. This is Pastor E.S. Upchurch once again, also known as Mwalimu DjehutiRa, and we're glad to be back with you once again here on WKH Radio, your Kemetic heritage voice on the internet. And of course, we're very glad not only to be with you, but we're glad that the ancestors are with us. And so we give our love and our appreciation to our ancestors, and we say, by tradition of the African villages all over this nation, all over the United States, O ancestors, blacker than 1,000 midnights, it is to you, we your people, that we give you respect and honor. You who have been purposely excluded from the history book so that the world would not know of your greatness. Our African ancestors who gave literature to the world, who gave medicine, mathematics, the arts to the world. Our African ancestors who gave language to the world. Our African ancestors who gave government and who gave philosophy to the world. Our African ancestors who gave God consciousness to the world. To our ancestors, we know that you are with us and we honor you. We say, rise up with us. Be in us. Fill this place. Rise up within us and protect us from the snares of our enemies and empower us against those who would seek to hinder us in the liberation of our people. O African ancestors, we honor you. We will not fail to hear you. We will not fail to honor you. And we will not betray you. Into this we all say Ashe. For those of you brothers and sisters that are in the Ifa spiritual discipline, and there are so many that we cannot name, but we are all of Africa, therefore we honor them all. We are not stuck. We are not glued to just a particular rendition. But hey, we love and we appreciate that which is divinely African. And so, for those of you that are in the Ifa spiritual discipline, we say, Oludumare, Oludumare, Mojuba Bobo, Ikuta Mbele Ese, Oludumare, Ibarataron. And we say, Efunwani, Alafia, Efunwani, Aiku, Efunwani Omo, Efunwani Ola, Efunwani Ishegun, Efunwani Suru, Efunwani Agbara, Efunwani Efunmani Asho, Efunmani Onje, Efunmani Ileodara. And we ask that the ancestors that are seated at the feet of the one true, called by many names by many people, but called Oludumare by those of the Ifa spiritual discipline, we want to say that to the ancestors that are venerated, that are lifted up, that are resurrected in light. And I always add that need never reincarnate ever again. We honor our ancestors. We honor those that have gone on before us. And we're just getting some things straight here for those of you that are trying to get into the chat room. I think we got it. And I just want to say, brothers and sisters, that we're glad to be with you once again. Glad to be with you here on WKH Radio. And we got a wonderful show for you tonight. We got a wonderful topic. For those of you that have joined us, we're always glad that you are here. Hey, if it wasn't for you all, you know what, we really wouldn't be doing this. So we do appreciate you. We love you. We honor you. And, of course, the chat room is open. You can go ahead and scurry into there. For those of you that have never done so, it is open and it is welcome for you. You can feel free to tap in, join in with us. There will be many, now that I have it open, right? There will be many coming in that want to chat with you and that want to, kind of mix it up with you. We got some regulars that come in, and we do appreciate them. But hey, listen, if you've never been here to the Ma'at chat room, feel free to just hop right on in. All you have to do is just make up a chat name that you want to be recognized by. Some of you that belong to the WBLR and the AfricanVillage.com Ning site, you already have a handle, if you will, and so you already have a name that you want to be called. Just go on ahead and hop in here and mix it up with us. We'd be very glad for you to do so and to help us discuss our topic for tonight, which, by the way, is, as we emailed the blast on this morning, for those of you that got that. And by the way, if you want to be on our emailing list, then by all means contact us. Just give us a note and say that you want to be on the email list. Just type it in for us, email it to us right through the welcome page on the website. Now, if someone has given you this URL and you don't know where the companion website is for it, then hey, we want to give it to you, because everything is on the first page. Not the entirety of the site, but hey, you can enter into the entirety of the site through that welcome portal at the beginning. And it's located at www.wkhradio.com. WKH and the word radio.com. And so you're welcome to join along with us. You're welcome to email me your questions throughout the show. Now, for those of you that will email, as well as those of you that will be in the chat room with me, or with us, I should say, you know, you really need to type in red if you want your question to be read over the air. And, you know, I just want to say that without fail, we will try to get to absolutely everyone. Actually, we never have a problem getting to everyone. If you want to get in contact with us via email or chat room, again, type it in red so that I can read it over the air. Or you can call in, okay? You can call in at 877-458-9547. That's 877-458-9547. And I'm going to do something a little bit different on tonight. We're just going to open up the phone line, and anytime you want to call in, you can call in to 877-458-9547. And just want to give a shout-out to Sister Brenda and to Zion Hall that's in the chat room already. And for those of you that are coming, hey, the water's fine. Come on in. And we're going to get to our subject on tonight, because we've got a lot to talk about. We really do have a lot to talk about. But just getting a check on some things and understanding that, guess what, you know, there's a whole lot that we have to talk about. But all in all, family, this show is designed for your edification and for your help, because there's a lot of jaw-jacking, there's a lot of, you know, people spitting through microphones, and you have a lot of concepts out there that are really half-baked, right? I mean, it's like they're not speaking truth, but they're just speaking what they heard. And, you know, we're going to be talking about a number of things tonight that all center around negotiating the end, about the end of the world. What is all of that all about, okay? And when it comes to the end of the world, the mainstream of what you've heard, the mainstream of what you've been taught, is more than likely it is a canned theological dispensation that's been given to you by Reverend Fatback or Missionary Goodlittle. And they've all said, well, you better, you know, prepare the way, because the end is coming. Oh, the end is coming. Oh, the end is coming. Look, they're talking about Iran and Iraq. Oh, the end is coming. And I want to say that, you know, unequivocally, across the board, everyone who has taken the eschatological view that the world is going to end in its entirety on a particular date, and that there's going to be this white guy with a beard and with long stringy hair in the sky riding a cloud like a cowboy rides a horse, and he's going to come and get you and take you away. Many people have this eschatology. It's something that they've been taught since they were a child. And see, this is part of the danger, okay? Because what happens is, the adage in the Bible that says that if you train up a child in the way that they should go, when they're old, they will not depart. Well, there's another side to that. If you train up a child in the way that they should not go, they will also not depart from that when they're old. And so you have a number of people that have been taught the wrong thing since a very young age, and now they refuse to depart from it. Now, let me give out my disclaimer. I'm not hating. I'm not against anyone's particular religious or spiritual view. I am for your particular religion, even your traditional religion. I'm for your religion if it leads you into a higher level of spirituality than you are right now. Not if it makes you happy. No. There's a lot of people that are doing a lot of things that are happy that is not fruitful, and it's not for the better good. It's not for the greater good of all alive. It's not for the greater good and the divine purpose that the Creator has sent. A murderer may feel good about, catching a victim. Well, that is not for the greater good. But at the same time, we have to say, not what makes you feel good, not even what makes you feel comfortable, because your theological disposition has a foundation of comfort, because what you believe in is what you're comfortable with, okay? As a sign of human nature, it is impossible for you to willingly and willfully accept something that you feel is either going to give you psychological or physical pain. So your belief system is already based upon your comfort level, okay? And some of us are comfortable with truth, and so we don't mind truth, and so there we go. We love speaking about truth. Well, let's talk about the truth of this particular subject on tonight, the end of the world, okay? The end of the world. And first off, what we're going to do is we're going to differentiate between the literal and the figurative, okay? The literal and the figurative in the Scripture. Now, we're dealing with the Bible because predominantly, other than the Zoroastrian religion, the ancient religion of Persia, which, by the way, first spouted out a devil and God battling, and their Lord coming back in the last days to battle the devil once and for all, and to put the devil under his feet. That's Zoroastrian. That's an ancient Persian religion that Christianity has adopted. Once again, Christianity has borrowed the concepts and the mythologies and the religions of others, and it's quilted it into the quilt of Christianity, and then refuses to admit where it got its patches from. So that's Christianity for you in a nutshell, okay? That's the Reader's Digest version. But the bottom line of it is the common view that we have of angels, of the end of the world, a final battle between good and evil. All of this is Zoroastrian, okay? Look up Zoroaster or Zarathustra. Just like it sounds, if you Google that, believe me, it will come in. Okay? So I want to say to all of you out there, you have to be willing to love truth and to look at truth and allow some of your preconceived ideas to fall to the side. Many of us have felt as if Christianity is a original religion, that it is within itself 100% pure, untainted by anything outside of it, but that is the farthest thing from the truth. And looking at some things here, you will find out that a lot of what we understand about our religions has really been given to us and spoon-fed to us, okay, by those that had all the cards in their hands. Think about it for a minute. In the Council of Nicaea in 325 AD, there was a decision being made on the deity of Christianity. Okay, now according to Hilton Hotema, Hotema, what Constantine did was, Constantine did not want to see his empire torn apart by religious doctrines, and so he decided to amalgamate all of the different factions and all of the different pieces together. And according to Hilton Hotema, in the book Constantine, Okay, the Council of Nicaea and the life of Constantine. In this book, in the preface, he states that it was Constantine who joined the kingdom together over the two major factions in that day. One of them was the Jesus, H-E-S-U-S, cult under Buddha, because Buddhism was known in Palestine, it was known in all of the Jewish territories, it was known in the Roman territories because of the trade routes. Capitalism has always played a big part in religion. And so the capitalistic ventures of that day actually caused there to be trade ways opened, where trade routes open, whereby different people would bring their goods and services in order to trade with others. Well, in the mixture of these cultures came the mixture of these cultural beliefs, folklore, and their mythologies. And so Buddhism came along with it. There have been small Buddha figurines found in Israel. Ancient. I'm talking ancient. I'm talking going back as far as 500 BC. I'm talking about there being Buddhist dolls, Buddhist figurines, those that would, that they would consider to be idols in the quote-unquote Bible days. But not only that, you had a mixture of religions coming from the would-be West in what is now called the Middle East, which is, okay, we're not even going to go there. But basically, looking at it, you had a mixture of religious ideas that were spawned, okay, by capitalism because of the trade routes. Now, there's some other cultural attachments to this that we could give, but I don't want to get bogged down in that, okay? Bottom line of it is, you have Buddha, you have Zoroastrianism, you have in the supposed first century day of Jesus, okay, tongue in cheek. Essentially what you have is you have an influx, okay, of what is called Gnostic belief, which comes mainly out of Egypt and labeled to be pagan, okay? And to give you just a backdrop, there is a lot of religious mixture. Now, let me add this little note in, because many of you that were Christian or are Christian may feel as if Jesus was put to death because his belief was so strange and so different. No. Again, there could not be anything farther from the truth. And one hint of that is in the book of Acts. I believe it's about the 7th chapter where it talks about the Bereans, who were supposedly searchers of the Scriptures, who searched the Scriptures daily to see if those things were so. Later on down the line, it's Paul, the Apostle Paul, who is at the Areopagus at Mars Hill. He is there with the Stoics, with the Greeks. And what are they doing? They are hearing new things. It's right there in your Bible. Check it out for yourself. I may have misquoted the chapter. I'm just going by memory. It's been years, right, since I read that. But nonetheless, just kind of, search it out for yourself. They always heard new things. So the Roman Empire was not unaccustomed to hearing new doctrines, new fables, and new mythologies. Okay, they thrived on that. So by the time Jesus gets here, which, by the way, Jesus was not preaching anything different. If you notice, even in the excuse me, if you notice, even in the Gospels, okay, I swallowed incorrectly. If you notice, even in the Gospels, what Jesus first begins to say is nothing but what John the Baptist was saying in the beginning. Okay? And so in looking at this, you had a lot of mixture, okay? And you had a lot of mixture of belief systems, mythologies, and religions. Well, there is a connection between the religious beliefs of humanity and the astrological or the cosmological signs that are in the universe. Now, I don't have time to go to all these scriptures, but please follow me with this, family. In Genesis chapter 1, verses 13 and 14, you will find that, of course, God creates the sun, the moon, and the stars, supposedly in the Old Testament mythology. And when God does this, one of the first things that he says that the stars are for, the sun, the moon, and the stars, are for signs and for seasons. Wait a minute. Hold on. According to the rule and law of interpretation of the Bible, okay, as far as exegesis goes and as far as homiletics goes, okay, and as far as hermeneutics goes, there is something in hermeneutics called the first mention principle. In other words, when you mention something like a star, and that a star is supposed to be a sign, okay, that definition, or I should say that attachment of the star being a sign, follows all other mentions of stars. Okay, so if in Genesis 1 it says that stars, that their first purpose is to be a sign, and then it's to note a season, and then it's to note a day, and then it's to note a year. Now that's in the Bible itself. Genesis 1, beginning at verse 14. Well, let's take this further, because by the time you get to the New Testament, of course, you have, once again, you have an astrological, okay, I'm talking astrological, not astronomical, but astrological. Well, what's the difference? Astrological, or that which leads or tends or is a part of astrology, deals with the esoteric symbolisms behind the stars and their constellations. All right? Astronomy is the study of the weight, and basically it's a science of looking at the stars, its weight, its size, its light frequency, and on and on and on. So there is a big difference between the two. But wait a minute, by the time you get to the New Testament, as I was saying before, you get to an astrological reference concerning Jesus and his star in the east. Okay? I'm not even going to talk about how it's impossible to have a particular star moving in the heavens, settling, and then resting over a house. Okay? I'm not going to tell you how impossible that is. Okay? You just think about that for yourself. Okay? I'm going to tell you that also that it's impossible for that to have been a comet. For a reason being that comets don't hover. Okay? But yet these wise men who were in the east, that were supposedly coming from the east, are looking at a star that's going in the east, but yet they're traveling west to Jerusalem. It makes absolutely no sense. But be that as it may, we know it's not literal. So what is it? Okay, it's a sign within itself. It's figurative. So now let's talk about this. Humanity and mankind in general has always used the stars as a sign. For those of you that get into astrology a little bit, you know what I'm talking about, okay? And even for you Bible-thumping church folk, you know good and well that there is something behind astrology, because you all will ask in a minute, well, what is he? Ooh, girl, he is a Cancer. No, he ain't, girl. You know them Cancers. Them Cancers can be moody. And even though you're in church, and you say that you don't believe in that devil stuff, yet you will talk about somebody's sign. Well, you know, girl, he's a Libra. You know, you got to watch them Libras. Okay? And we have all of these things going on in church hypocritically, because we say that we don't believe in it, but yet and still we do. Now, I'm going to tell you outright, I believe fully and completely that there is something behind astrology. And I believe that there's some truth behind that. Okay? Otherwise, in the 19th Psalm, what's labeled to be written by David, okay, which is actually not, but anyway, what's labeled to be written by David as that the heavens declare the glory of the Lord, and then it talks about there's a line that comes from the starry heavens into the earth and has influence in the earth. Read it for yourself, Psalm 19. Now, looking at astrology, Jesus is supposed to have a star, okay, which makes Jesus, if you believe that he is the Savior, the Son of God, the only begotten, if you believe that, then he has a star that is astrological. So I must ask the question, by you being a Christian or a little Christ, where is your star? Okay? Is it the sign that you were born under? Well, that's interesting, okay? We could talk about that further. But many who are Christians say that they don't believe in astrology, but the Bible is filled with astrological events, okay, that are including and up to what many of us believe about the whole entire system of religion itself. It is astrotheology. It is astrological in its nature. Okay, and listen, family, stick with me. You do the research for yourself. Act like you don't believe me, okay? And do the research for yourself. Don't just listen to me. Don't just swallow hook, line, and sinker. But go ahead and let's dig into this, okay? And listen, just before we do, I want to give a big shout out to Brother Thutmoses, who's here. Brother Thutmos is here with us in the chat room. Give a shout out to you, my brother, as well as to Big 027, as well as to Brenda, to Brother Ikulu, Brother Burks, also to Daja and Zion Hall. Well, let's continue, family, as we talk about, okay, as we talk about the astrotheological reference and influence in the scripture. Okay, now there is something called an astrological age. What does that mean? What is an astrological age? When the sun arises in the heavens on every morning, if you look behind where the sun is rising, you will find that the sun rises in a particular constellation, one of the 12 zodiacs. Okay? Now, when that happens, that is the house that the sun rises in. And that's also in relationship to where the point of the earth is pointing, okay? Because you have to understand that there is a time and a season for everything. Can I get an amen or an ashe? Thing about it is, family, the stars that are said to have influence, spiritual influence, and metaphysically, they have influence of electromagnetic frequencies that, just as the moon controls the tides, the ebbs and the flow of the tides, increasing or decreasing them by means of its electromagnetic pull upon the earth, so do the stars and the moon also have an effect not only upon the waters of the earth, but also upon the waters that are in your body. Because your brain thinks by means of fluid. Your blood is fluid. Your body is filled with fluids. Okay? And as the seas themselves become unruly because of the electromagnetic field increasing or relaxing by it waning, and so does your body also, because your body is also fluid. Because the human body is a smaller thumbnail picture of the earth and the universe itself. So what goes on in the earth also happens in your body. Now, when the moon controls the tides, the moon also controls what goes on in you. Talk to any paramedic, talk to any emergency triage doctors, nurses. They will tell you that when the moon is full, the police officers will tell you that when the moon is full, they get more domestic disturbances called, they get more crime calls, because it is said that people become lunatic, luna meaning sun, that they actually, luna meaning moon, that they actually become affected by the moon's fullness and by the increase in electromagnetic field. Okay? So, some have said that, when the moon is full, that's because within the moon's orbit, it actually comes just a little bit closer to the earth, so it can catch all of the sun's light. And then, of course, it has a greater effect on the earth, and it affects the tides. And if it affects the waters of the earth, it's also going to affect the water in the human body. And the brain takes 80% of all of the water that you drink. Okay? So, the brain is going to be affected. And if the brain is affected, since the brain is an organ for the mind, then, of course, your mind is also going to be affected. All right? So, what happens is that there is something called an astrological age. Now, what happens in this astrological age, the earth, imagine, if you will, imagine this ball called the earth, and it has a big pin sticking through it, okay? And the head of the pin is pointed because the earth is kind of leaning a little bit. You know, the earth has a gangsta lean, right? 23.5 degrees, okay? And that's deep science for those of you that have studied some of the Kemetic sciences. 23.5 is a very interesting number. But the earth wobbles, okay, and is on a 23.5 degree axis. So in other words, the earth has got a gangster lean to it, right? And that point that would normally be up and down is actually at a lean, okay? And it has a wobble to it. Now, it just so happened that as the earth goes throughout its journey throughout the cosmos, it will actually point to a different house. It'll point to a different energy center or constellation in the universe. And as we said before, since the earth and the moon is affected by means of electromagnetic pull, the stars also have electromagnetic pull and flux to them, okay? And it affects the whole entirety of everything else. So by the earth being pointed at one of these different houses, there are different things that go on, and these are said to be dispensations or eons, okay? When the earth spends time pointing at one of the 12 houses of the zodiac, this is said to be an astrological age, and it is approximately 2,160 years. So roughly every 2,000 years, and you've got to have some years for overlap, right? Because the way that the universe works, the waves don't just jump up on the ocean. No, they flow to the ocean. They flow on the shore, and then they flow back into the ocean. So everything that the universe does, there is a flow to it. Nothing just happens right away. Well, that being the same case, when the earth enters into a different house, there is an overlapping period where you find that the old energy has to dissipate and the new energy has to build. Okay? And it works like this, because in an astrological age, roughly 2,160 years, in the beginning of recorded history, and everything that is before recorded history is prehistoric, okay? When you look at how the pattern changes, okay, I said on an average 2,160 years. Let's take, just for the sake of imagination, that the 160 years can be, pretty much dissipated in the overlap. In other words, in the changeover, okay? Some of that energy of that new house, of that new zodiac sign, is going to be dissipated in the transfer over, because remember, you got to blend in and blend out, okay? So looking at the age of the zodiac itself, okay, Brother Thutmose has given me every 25,000 years, okay. The ages actually change every 2,160 years. You change houses, all right. Now, when you take each house of 2,160 years, and you multiply that by 12, that is said to be the great year, which is the 25,000 year that Brother Thutmose is talking about. And thank you for that, Brother Thutmose. Looking at the changes that come every 2,000 years, there is a progression even written in your Bible, for those of you that believe it. Okay. Here's the deal. Back when Taurus was the central focal point that the earth was pointing to, okay, humanity that had this deep esoteric wisdom wanted to harmonize with nature and harmonize with what the Creator was doing. So they styled their religious observances behind what was in the heavens. As in heaven, so in earth. And so what do? Taurus, what we would call Taurus, the bull, which back in that day was Asar, the Kemetic Asar. Asar was being worshipped. Okay, Asar was being worshipped in ancient Kemet. Now, if you notice that within that 2,160 year span of time, what happens? Well, the age shifts, or the house shifts, because every 2,160 years you have a transition of the focus in the heavens. So first it was the bull. 2,160 years come, guess what? The bull is out. Now it's time for a new move. Okay? And what was that new move? It was Aries. Now I want you to notice something here, because there is a progression. And I want you to see here, because this gets very deep, family. The individuals, and oh boy, okay, I tell you what, let me just stick with this for a minute, because I'm about to drop something that I think will knock your socks off. Okay? When the shift happened, and there was a 2,160 year period, okay, what happened was it went from being the age of the bull to the age, in other words, it went from Taurus to Aries. It went from the age of the bull to the age of the ram or lamb, okay, which the ancient Kenites had already established as Amen. The lamb or the ram was the sign for Amen, okay? But there was a marauding, war-mongering, blood-shedding, blood-letting people that by their traveling as and with the Hyksos, they ended up instituting their version of the ram or lamb religion. And first of all, notice, you discover it with Abraham. Now, I'm going to tell you something, brothers and sisters. With every major religious move, you have a forerunner, and then you have an institutor. In other words, you have a forerunner, and then you got the main, the HNIC, the head nigga in charge. But before the HNIC, you will have a forerunner, someone that is seen doing that beforehand. Okay, that's just the process of introduction. So, when the age changed, and you had the age of the ram or lamb, because 2,160 years had passed since the bull was instituted, well, who do you see? Well, the first one to institute the ram or lamb is Abraham. Okay? Now, Abraham was the precursor for Moses that brought in this age of the ram and lamb sacrifice. Now, again, as I said before, there's overlap. So they did not stop sacrificing bulls, but if you notice, the lamb and ram became the main sacrifice, okay? It became the main sacrifice for the day. And so Brother Thutmose has already beat me to the punch. He knows where I'm going with this, right? He knows where I'm going with this, all right? That's all right, that's all right. You go ahead, Brother Thutmose, with your bad self. Well, listen, Abraham is the precursor, but Moses institutes the lamb, the scapegoat. He is the one that dictates the law for the scapegoat. Okay? And he continues by way of momentum, because there is always a little bit of the old and the new. He institutes the ram and lamb, but he does not forget the bull. So he allows there to be sacrifice of bulls, okay? But at the same time, the main focus is the lamb. When they were supposedly, in their mythology, when they were leaving Kemet, right, in their fake Exodus, what do they say was their savior? It wasn't the blood of the bull. No, it was the blood of the lamb. Slide that lamb's blood all over your door, which, by the way, we did in Africa many years, hundreds of years before it is written as a Jewish folkloric, mythological, but yet and still true reality. So, looking at this, brothers and sisters, you have a transition of the ages, all right? Now, I want you to notice something, because even in the Bible, there is a question in relationship to the end of the world. Now, many of you thought that the question was about the end of the world, But in the Bible, the question is not about the end of the world, meaning that realistically, right, that the world is going to end, the world is going to blow up, the world is going, no, that is not going to happen. All right? But yet at the same time, brothers and sisters, what's really being asked, and we're going to talk about it, if you go to Matthew 24:3, this is how it reads. All right? And write these down. We're going to try to upload this show before tonight is out so you can get it and listen to it again and again and again on your MP3 player, or you can download it on your computer. It says in Matthew 24:3, and as he, talking about Jesus. I wonder why it isn't a capital H-E, because I thought you were supposed to capitalize for God, but never mind. And as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, Tell us, when shall these things be? And what shall be the sign of thy coming, and the end of the world? Now, many of us read that, and we look at it literally and say, oh, he's talking about the end of the world, when the world's going to be destroyed, and the world... Listen, brothers and sisters, this is not talking about the end of the physical earth. This earth is billions of years old, okay? And there is now talk to say that the earth and all of physicality may very well be closer to that is eternal, okay, than what we've ever imagined. In other words, they're getting rid, or some are getting rid of this early young earth of 6,000 years. Please, we know that the earth is much older than 6,000 years. That is ridiculous. Like someone asked a man, he said, well, if the earth is only 6,000 years old, then why did then why are there dinosaurs? And the person said, well, God put dinosaurs here just to test our faith. No, Negro. The earth is much, much, much older than 6,000 years old. I'm sorry, y'all. I gotta laugh because I mentioned HNIC, right? And Zion Hall says I call it HNIG, the head nigga in the garage. That's funny. Okay. Well, be that as it may, okay, HNIG. The question is asked, when shall the end of the world be? Now, interesting thing is, brothers and sisters, is that if you look in the Strong's Concordance, for you preachers out there, preachers, grab your Strong's Concordance and go with me. Listen, it's, you got to indulge me a little bit, right? It's been a long time since I preached like Reverend Fatback. The Strong's Greek Concordance, okay, Greek for the New Testament, Hebrew for the Old Testament, okay, that's why there's a G in front of some numbers and H in front of others. Number 165 is AION, which we pronounce ion in the Greek, but which we transliterate as eon, as in an epoch of time. When you look at what is really being asked in the Greek language, it is, you know what? When shall the end of this age be? Or when shall the end of this astrological age be? Okay? When shall the end of this astrological age be? Now, I want you to notice something here, that this is really deep, because what's being discussed is, it's not the end of the physical planet. No. It's simply saying, when is there going to be a time shift? When is the 2,160 years going to be up, so that we enter into a different age, or a different astrological house, or even, to put it differently, an astrological age? When do we enter into that? Because if you notice, as we read further here, okay, listen to me. As we read further, there's something very interesting in the book of Mark. In the book of Mark, the 14th chapter, verses 12 through 15, reading out of the King James Version of the Bible, It reads like this. And the first day of unleavened bread, okay, when they killed the Passover. So what time is that? That is the Passover, okay? Because every 2,100 years, the earth, okay, it points at a different house, and on the earth's perspective, the sun then rises in a different house. So as the earth points to a different zodiacal or zodiacal, I should say, a different zodiac house. Maybe that's simplest, right? As the earth points to a different zodiac house, the sun will arise correspondingly. So the age has changed. And remember, the ancients did this in order to keep up what was going on in the heavens. Okay, there was the bull, there was the ram. Guess what? When Yeshua, or Jesus, supposedly walked the earth, there was another shifting of the age, and it was the age of Pisces. So all through, notice once again, you see a phasing out of what Moses did, and you see a rising of the new. Okay? Which is why in Mark 5 you see a Jesus giving his version of the law of Moses. You see Jesus yet referring to the law, and the law is the way. You see, you got to keep a little bit of the old in the new. But yet and still, by the time Jesus gets here, guess what? Jesus, who, by the way, if you've been driving or you see the bumper stickers, you see the fish with the IX theta YS in it. That says ichthus in the Greek, because it's supposed to be, what the ancient Christians did to show that they were Christians, okay? Because ichthus means fish. And so that actually stood for Jesus Christ, Son of God. Jesu Christou, Huios Theou. So, looking at that, they saw Jesus as under the sign of the fish. Now, wait a minute, hold on. If you notice, all of the fish references, he was preaching and he told them to, throw their nets on the right side, and they caught what? A bunch of fish. Okay? In one place, there was, they counted, and there was like 153 fish, which is a Pythagorean number in relationship to basically, geometry. Okay, sacred geometry. And so you got all of that stuff mixed in, but fish is very, very prevalent in Jesus' ministry, because he institutes the age of Pisces. Okay, so you've got, the two fishermen, okay, that were following Jesus. Not only, Peter and Andrew, the two fishermen. Also, not only that, but you've got, fish references. When he rose again from the dead, what does he feed the disciples by the seashore? He feeds them fish. When he's got to pay his taxes, what does he do? He tells Peter to go catch a fish, and the first fish that you catch, then reach in his mouth and go pay our taxes. I sure wish that worked today. Okay. And thank you, Thutmose. He also said, I will make you fishers of men. So fish is the prevalent, right? It's the prevalent theme throughout the New Testament, okay? Simply because it references to the age of Pisces. Now, by the time we get to the question of when shall the end of the age come, well, what age were they in? They were in the age of Pisces, okay? And so what comes after the age of Pisces, which, by the way, we are still in, and it's waning out. And as Brother Thutmose has already let the cat out the bag, everybody, we're entering into the age of Aquarius. Okay? We're entering into the age of Aquarius. So the end of the world is not the destruction of the planet, but from a biblical perspective, looking at the actual Greek, it's talking about the end of the age, or the end of a particular time sequence. Okay? And if you think about that, you will have a different understanding of what the book of Revelation is talking about. In fact, let's even go here, because many of you do not understand that there are, cosmological references to Jesus, right? I want you to notice something that's written in John, the 1st chapter, okay? And I'm going to let you know something. That in the Old Testament, God was known as a son of righteousness in the book of Malachi. Malachi 4:2, but unto you that fear my name shall the S-U-N of righteousness arise with healing in his wings. Okay? In another place, I believe in Hosea, it says, and the Lord our God is a son, S-U-N. All right? And of course, I don't have to tell you that the ancient Kemites looked upon God, Ra, and gave unto God, Ra, the symbol, the icon of the sun. The sun became a parable that represented the divine creator. Okay? We're going to talk about that a little bit further too, but for right now, in Malachi 4:2, it says, unto you that fear my name shall the Son of Righteousness, the S-U-N, arise with healing in his wings, Malachi 4:2, and ye shall go forth and grow up as calves in the stall. Now, I want you to notice something that's also said in John, the 1st chapter, verses 4 through 9. And it reads, talking about Jesus, in him, man, look at that, verse 4, him is not capitalized. I thought you're supposed to capitalize when you're talking about God. Oh, well. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. Now, if the sun did not shine, would you be able to live? The answer to that is no, because there would be no vegetation, the earth would freeze over, and so the light and the warmth that the sun gives is life unto you, me, and every other person on the planet. Okay? So in looking at this, and taking it a step further, brothers and sisters, let's see if we can find any references to sunlight in this passage of Scripture. And the light shineth in darkness, and the darkness comprehended it not. There's one. Because what does the sun do? When it's nighttime, what does the sun do? The sun arises at dawn, and it shines through the darkness and gives unto us daylight. Isn't that interesting? Verse 6, there was a man sent from God whose name was John. The same came for a witness, to bear witness of the light, that all men through him might believe. Now, I want you to pay close attention to verse number 8. He, talking about John, he was not that light, but was sent to bear witness of that light. Pay attention to verse number 9 too. That was the true light. Now listen to this next clause. Which lighteth every man that cometh into the world. Wait a minute. Whatever light this is that we're talking about, because it just says he, him, right? Now, we assume that it's talking about Jesus, and of course it is, but I want you to notice that it's under the typology of the sun. It says that the true light, which does what? Verse 9, latter part of verse 9, which lighteth every man that cometh into the world. Wait a minute. Do you realize that there are many individuals that have never heard the name of Jesus and that have never heard of Christianity? Okay, yet in the jungles and places all over the world, there's some people even here in the United States that don't even know about Jesus. But yet, according to the Bible, unless the Bible is lying, it says that whatever light this is, that it lighteth upon every man that comes into the world. Now, let's ask ourselves a question. Is it possible that someone could be born into the world and live and not have ever had sunlight to shine upon them? Okay? Now, I should get a big sunlight out of Brother Sunlight, okay? Because I'm pretty sure that he knows what I'm talking about. That sun that we're talking about is the sun that you see every morning. Okay? When you look across the lake and the sun is shining, you see the sun walking on the water as the water moves. when you look up into the heavens, you see the sun coming on the clouds as you stare through the clouds in order to see the sun. Okay? Looks like we have our first caller for tonight. Ma'at Hotep, this is Pastor Upchurch. And who might I be speaking to on WKHR? Hello? Oh, don't be scared. Okay, looked like somebody got scared and ran away. That's all right. That's all right. That's all right. Someone got scared. Go ahead and call back. Don't be afraid. I'm not going to bite you. And by the way, we do welcome Christians to call in. We welcome you to call in. Please, 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 please give us a call. Looking as well, now I'm going to turn the ringer on, so you may hear a ringer in the background because I want to make sure that I get every call. Looking then at our particular passages of Scripture, it is only the sun in the heavens that lights upon every individual born that lives, okay? It is the sun that does that, okay? Not a particular deity. There are many people that do not know of Jesus. There's many people that do not know of many gods. There's some people that have no God, right? But yet and still, it is the sunlight of the heavens that lights upon them every day of their life. So when you take a look at Jesus, which, by the way, the early Christians, and I've got it on the website, the early Christians viewed Jesus as the sun in the center of the zodiac. Oh, yeah. I didn't do what they did, so don't be mad at me. But they looked at the S-U-N of God being told in mythological form as the S-O-N of God. Okay? Which also is another metaphor for your eternal spirit that is within you. All right? Now, I'm not going to get into that, but let's continue forward, because now, as we understand that the end of the world is not the destruction of the planet, but that it is the phasing out of one age and the beginning of another age, this is really what's being discussed when you talk about the end of the world, okay? The end of the world is not the end of the planet Earth, but it's the end of a time period called an eon, which is translated in the King James Version as world. Well, we're going to get into some things. We're going to get into the transition between astrological ages in just a moment. We're going to get into that. But what I want to do, brothers and sisters, first is I want to give you a break. I want to give you time to, to just breathe deep a little bit. And I want to give you a moment so that even maybe I can wet my whistle a little bit. So, hey, we will be right back at you, okay, in just a moment. And we want you to know that we're going to finish up the program in just a few.
Wake up, wake up. Inside you there is a mighty African warrior. Wake up, for inside you is a mighty African scholar. Wake up, for inside you is a mighty African queen, a mighty African king. Pastor Upchurch has a new DVD entitled Reawakening Your Inner African. He discusses DNA activation, the pineal gland, the ancestors, and so much more. A little history, a little metaphysics. This is just what the doctor ordered. Join the family. Be what you were always meant to be. Awaken your inner African today. Just go to www.wkhradio.com and order your DVD today while supplies last. For a $25 donation, you can begin the journey you were destined to. Reawaken the African in you today.
All right, family, I'm back. Don't cry. Don't cry. I'm back. Here I am. Yeah, that's funny, right? Yeah, that's real funny. Hey, listen, so let's get back into our lesson for tonight, because the real change that is coming is in how we negotiate the end of this age and not the destruction of the planet. You see, Hollywood and the powers that be are investing millions of dollars into getting you to believe that it is the end of the physical planet. All right? It is not the end of the planet. It is not the end of the planet Earth. Okay? But rather, it is the end of a period of time. And there's a time and season for everything. There's a time and season for every purpose. So as time changes, okay, means and methods for fulfilling purposes also change. And so this is what you've been hearing about 2012 and, you know, everything like that. Yeah, it's a change in age. It's a change in the way that we deal with our reality. Okay? But it's not a destruction of the reality. It's simply a change in what we know to be truth. So, in looking at this then, in the midst of the last astrological age, in the midst of that, there were some things instituted that were necessary and that were even a part of the Piscean spirit, if you will. It was a part of that vibration. It was a part of that age. It was a part of, you know, that Piscean foundation that everything in that age had to be built upon, which is why men and women in the ancient days honored what was going on in the heavens, because what is written in Psalms 19 is true. There is a vibration that goes throughout the cosmos that affects the earth by means of the constellation and the stars that we behold in the heavens. And what the sun focuses on, because, and I don't want to get too deep into this, I don't want to get too deep into metaphysics, but listen, brothers and sisters, that the sun that we have, when it arises in a particular zodiac house, you have to understand that that particular house is then amplified by the energy of the sun. Okay? Dr. Delbert Blair tells us that the sun is a step-down transformer that takes the energy of the cosmos and it brings it into a quote-unquote palatable form, if you will, so that the earth might receive it. But bottom line of it is, the sun still uses the energy of the cosmos, mainly that of the zodiac house. And of course, what does it do? It increases its influence. So as the earth is pointing towards a particular zodiac house, okay, that makes the ages change, the sun then is a magnifier that is going to take that energy and magnify it, so that imagine it this way, that the sun is like a light, and when the zodiac changes, it's like a different color lens over the light that changes everything that you look at. And it brings it into that frequency, whether it be green, whether it be, you know. So, hey, just flow with that for a moment as far as your imagination is concerned. So let's take this a step further. There were many things that were instituted, okay, and we could talk about the calendar, how the calendar was messed up in 1582 of this common era, and we could talk about, you know, how, yeah, there were months added, okay, all that being what it is. The bottom line of it is there were many things instituted, okay, in the Piscean age. Now, I want you to notice something, because the overall trend of the Piscean age is that of dualism. Okay, notice, if you will, Pisces is one fish looking one way and another fish looking a different way, or the opposite way. Okay, so Pisces is an age of dualism. It's an age of confrontation. It's an age of greater and lesser. It's an age of duality, which means that you had to have change. You had to have not a unified oneness, but there was a dualism. Okay, it's in the Piscean age that women lost their deification. It's in the Piscean age where I should say the loss of women's deification was solidified in the Piscean age. All right? In many cultures, the woman was honored, the woman was revered, the woman was looked upon as being God, she was looked upon as being holy. Okay, but, in the Piscean age, things solidified for a kind of like a dualism where now I'm greater and you've got to be lesser. There's hot and cold, there's light and dark, there's all of these dualisms, right? Male and female. There's all of these definitions that we add to things. So thinking, and by the way, for those of you listening, Brother Burks, hey, much peace to you. Of course, we are going to meet on tomorrow. Be there. Listening family, there's a number of things that were instituted during the Piscean age. Okay, one of the things, it's almost like everything took its own corner, and then you had a battle, if you will, to see who's going to be the greatest, because you had to have the greater and the lesser. Okay, so you had a lot of conquest, you had a lot of battles, you had a lot of fighting, you had a lot of establishing of, we are your government and you are not, and you will do what we say. There's a lot of that dualism, okay, instituted in the age of Pisces. Okay, and so in the age of Pisces, there were a number of things. For instance, the Catholic Church being established as the universal, the one true, and all others must bow down. And you have the Inquisition. See, all of that is Piscean. Heavy judgment, okay, judgmentalism, you're evil because you wear lipstick or you wear pants, so you're a woman and you can't be saved. All of that judgmentalism comes from the age of Pisces, okay, it's all a part of that. As well, in the age of Pisces, you have the domination of the corporation over the public. You have the domination of governments over the populace of people. You have the domination of one race over another race. Okay? You have the domination of males over females. The Piscean age is an age of dualism. It's an age of confrontation. It's an age of not just duality, okay, but it's also an age of thinking about, that is other than yourself. In other words, it's external. Everything is external. I must go for this that is outside of me. There's that dualism. There's me, and then there's everything that's outside of me. And in order for me to feel better about myself, I've got to now chase this God that is other than me. I've got to chase this, this anything that's other than me, and I've got to make myself feel better because I am not whole. I got to reach for something else. All of those are Piscean traits, and those are Piscean, mentalities. Okay? Being ruled over to the point to where you must simply follow orders. This is also Piscean. Okay? It's a trait of the Piscean age, because in order for you to follow orders, someone has to give you those orders, and guess what? In order for that to be, then, you have to enroll in this dualistic, it's me, but you're the government over me, and so I must forever bow down, and on and on and on. There's a lot that's going on in this Piscean age that is responsible for a lot of the bloodshed, the murder, the mayhem, and the deep darkness that we experience as human beings. Looking at some of what's being said, Rasta says, teacher, I heard this through Dr. York speaking about this Nibiru coming to Earth. Is it wise to take that as fact or as truth? He says, teacher, you talk about the zodiac. Is it to say that each sign is consistent of a period of time? And okay, to answer that, yes, each sign does consist as a period of time. The pointing of the zodiac sign by the earth, okay, every 2,160 years, that happens and changes and is a period of 2,160 years. Now, every month, there is a different constellation that will be in a certain part of your heavens. Now, that rotates one way, but the Earth's pointing towards a zodiac sign is in the opposite direction. Okay, so it goes reverse of what you might think. So, in looking at it, basically, it is a length of time. Zion Hall says, Pastor, and by the way, let me hit this Nibiru thing, right? Because it depends on who you listen to, Brother Rasta. If you listen to Zechariah Sitchin, okay, who says basically, Nibiru's coming, and there's the Anunnaki on Nibiru, and they're going to come, and they're going to be close enough to where they can then come back to Earth. They've been here before, and so forth and so on. Okay. Looking at it, it depends on who you talk to. There's some that say that, well, no, Nibiru is just an asteroid, and it has no people on it. That's nothing but, mythology. Now, be that as it may, I want to say that I don't know. I'll honestly tell you, I do not know, because there's too many references. For instance, the Sumerians wrote about the Anunnaki and the Nibiru and the 12th planet. I mean, read some of Zechariah Sitchin's works. He has a lot that was supposedly documented by the ancients, and what really causes his argument to be more substantial is that there is a description that is now backed up by NASA of what Pluto looks like, of what Neptune looks like, and the other planets in the galaxy. As well, the Dogon add to that, and they describe individuals that are actually on these particular planets, which would say that we're not being told the truth as to what exists on these other planets. Be that as it may, hey, I'm leaning towards there being an actual Nibiru, but honestly, hey, I don't have the whole story. I don't know. All I know is, out of what has been presented thus far, it seems very, very likely that that's a strong possibility. Zion Hall says, Pastor Upchurch, along with some of the natural progression, earth changes, astrological shifting, I feel that this astrological transition includes our inner spiritual and physical transition to higher consciousness. What are your thoughts on the negative vibrations sent out by the Setian forces? That is, through HAARP systems, chemtrails, etc., etc. Well, thank you for asking that question, Zion Hall. I want to say, you know what? This Setian influence, as you call it, I like the way you put it, by the way, they've discovered some of the science behind frequencies, and they understand that if you override one frequency with another, the frequency with the most power will dominate, okay? It will dominate. So what happens is we are being bombarded by all of these negative frequencies, okay? Frequencies that bring about changes of destruction rather than changes that would raise the consciousness and lift the consciousness. The way I feel about it, I think that they know about it. I think that they're purposely trying to reinstill their rule by means of fear, because fear, once again, it's all Piscean, okay? Fear sets about the stage where there is the victim, but there's also a savior, okay? Oh boy, okay, here we go. And I don't want to get too deep into this, but let me just mention it. The way that some of these secret societies operate, and by the way, not all secret societies are evil, but they are everywhere. Secret societies that are governing the chaos of this planet have a particular philosophy. They have a paradigm which says ordo ab chaos. In other words, order by means of institution of chaos. When you bring chaos into the picture, you make people so afraid until they will agree with any plan that you posit, as long as it looks like it's the answer. Okay? So ordo ab chao, you introduce confusion, you introduce chaos, and then you come in as a savior, like a savior, and introduce your order, which is really what you wanted to institute all the time. Okay? So the ones that's giving you the answer are also the ones that instituted the problem. That's basically how it works. And so they're doing this on purpose so they could establish their own agenda, which is control. And again, as I said before, fear is Piscean. Okay? I can look at my hand all day long and not be afraid of my hand because I realize that that's a part of me. When we enter into the spirit of the age of Aquarius, we'll realize that we're walking in a oneness, okay, and we're flowing in a oneness, okay, and therefore anything that I look at is just another expression of myself. See, this is knowledge and truth that's going to really dominate in the Aquarian age. And so it's impossible for you to be afraid of something, okay, that you're very well accustomed with. And if you know that this is your hand, there's nothing to be afraid of, because guess what? This is my hand. I've been looking at it all the time. Part of the conscious revolution, the conscious ascension of humanity, is going to come in all of humanity realizing that it is one with each other. Okay? Yes, Haru is one with Set. Asar and Set are actually two dimensions of the same person. Okay? Aset and Nebuchadnezzar are two dimensions of the same person. Okay? Which is why you have Haru and Anpu, or called Anubis by the Greeks. They are actually two of the same people. They're just different dimensions of the same person. Which is why when you look at the ancient Kemetic system on the Tree of Life, you also have in the ancient Kemetic system, you have Ma'at and you have Nebuchadnezzar and you have Aset. But you also have what's called the Ma'ati, okay, M-A-A-T-I, which says that Ma'at, another depiction of Ma'at, is the harmonized and integrated sisters flowing together. It's Aset and Nebuchadnezzar joined together in one. Okay? So they go from the Piscean age of having these two separate individuals. Okay? One is, trying to work against the other and seduce her husband, and the other. No. They bring it into its true harmony in like an Aquarian age under the Ma'ati, which is Aset and Nebuchadnezzar put together in divine peace, with Nebuchadnezzar being integrated into Aset. In other words, the dark energy being integrated into the light energy, just as you experience every 24-hour period of your life. The darkness is integrated into your day as well as the light. The Piscean age would look at the day as 12 hours of daylight and then opposite 12 hours of night. But the Aquarian age would say, this is simply one blessed day. All right? Rasta says, I saw on YouTube, teacher, a Rasta brother lecture where he shows a beautiful light in the shape of the eye of Horus, in which he says it's coming to Earth as he quote, the NASA scientists. Do you know of this? Well, I believe that is the exact same as what was referred to before. I don't know of that intimately. I don't know of that specifically. But I think that that's a part of the Nibiru, the whole Nibiru thing, because Nibiru is also supposed to be seen just before the sun arises in the southern parts, or I should say on the southern hemisphere of the Earth. Okay, I don't live on the southern hemisphere of the Earth, so Oz really don't know. Okay, but nonetheless, Zion Hall says But these forces cause the sun's power to be slowed to the ignorant. Well, I think that's a part of a different. That's a part of the previous. That's a part of the previous discussion, okay, about the energies and the vibrations. What's interesting is, you look at the stories in ancient Kemet of how Ra was supposedly bitten by a serpent. Okay, some believe Apophis or Apep in ancient Kemet, Meduneter. And, of course, Aset has to come and heal Ra. All right? Now, please understand that Aset means the throne, which is also a particular portion of the heavens where the sun arises. So as the cosmos turns and that part of heaven becomes the birthing place of the sun, or the place where the sun is brought forth, the sun is then supposedly healed and no longer ailing. Right now, the sun is supposedly sick because there aren't any sunspots, and it's at its lowest minimum that it has ever been. Okay, and they don't know why there aren't any sunspots. In fact, the scientists are very, very afraid. Okay, and we could go further with this, but I really want to get into the lesson a little bit more. So the sun is supposedly sick, but a lot of the ancient mythological stories, we find them actually coming true today in how the sun is responding. So, in talking about the end of the world, it's not the end of the world, but it's the end of the age. And so we have to look not to the Piscean, but we have to look to the Aquarian age. Now, why would we want to do that? What I believe is a very important esoteric truth is that the first body of people to embrace the quote-unquote new age, or the new house, or the new zodiac age, it is those individuals that end up being at the forefront, okay, of that 2,160-year period. So, for those of you that say, well, yeah, it's time to arise and be who the Creator intended us to be, we need to tap into this science and embrace the Aquarian age of oneness and think as the ancient Africans of old did throughout their many Aquarian ages, and realize that, yeah, all is one. We are a part of one. And I can't hate you without hating a part of myself. Okay? So, in looking at that, we're going to have to change our paradigm and change the way that we're thinking, because many of us are thinking in a Piscean, we got that Piscean paradigm. It's them against us. There's that dualism again. Okay? I'm not against white people. I'm not out to kill white people. I'm not out to hate white people. No. I hate evil. I hate unrighteousness. I hate, and I disconnect myself from dark energies. All right? So I'm not, we need to get out of that Piscean mentality as us against them, and then you go into the house and you're against your woman, and you're fighting with your woman or your mate because it's them against me, and all these Piscean traits that causes sectarianism, division, separation. It's these things that are killing us and are feeding into the spirit of destruction in this age that we are in. Okay? So what happens, brothers and sisters, is this. It is the Piscean age that brings division and dualism and greater than and less than. It's in this Piscean age, brothers and sisters, that the earth has withstood some of its greatest violence, some of its greatest atrocities, some of its greatest problems. And the ascension of consciousness in the age of Aquarius that many people are talking about is that level of consciousness where you can see and know that all is one together. Okay? Now, in order to do that, brothers and sisters, guess what? You are going to have to walk in a greater dimension of love and understanding with your brothers and your sisters. Okay? You're going to have to do this. Otherwise, you will be caught up in the Piscean madness. It's us against them. We don't have any guns, and they outgun us, and they've got guns that shoot sonic waves and that make your skin feel like it's melting, but we're going to take our little 45 and we're going to stand up against this great army. No, that's a suicide run, because you refuse to see things in the African paradigm as all being one. You're caught in this Piscean concept, okay, of us against them, and you're losing the battle even before it begins. So I don't want to see us rush headlong into something that's going to hurt us. I'd rather see us walk in truth, walk in light, and then, of course, be helped. Looking at what is Aquarian. Oneness is Aquarian. Being understanding is an Aquarian attribute. Meditation is an Aquarian attribute. Being spiritual, okay? Tapping into spirituality. Seeing intuitively, using the imagination, activating your imagination. Okay, for those of you here in Milwaukee, we're going to be talking about that during tomorrow's session, if you come and be with us. Also, at the same time, okay, allowing there to be no distinction between male and female is Aquarian. Okay, seeing a woman as a goddess instead of the B word. That is Aquarian. And to answer your question, Thutmose, yes, I did. Thutmose, I did read Malachi 4 and 2. Also some things that are, I'm sorry, I had to answer his question. There are also other things that are Aquarian. Being non-judgmental about yourself, that's Aquarian. Seeking enlightenment and truth, that is also Aquarian. Being very aware of energies and feelings and emotions, that's Aquarian. Being non-regimented, flowing, okay, because remember, the Aquarian age flows. And let me just get back to something that I didn't share, that I want to share. Because in the, I think I started this, but I didn't finish it. And I apologize, brothers and sisters. With the few minutes that I have left, let me finish this. Looking at Mark 14, verses 12 through 15, it says, in the day of unleavened bread, okay, they were about to go into the Passover. All right? Remember, the Passover, astrologically, is when the house changes from one zodiac sign to another. You're in a different house, therefore you have passed over into another house. Okay? Because you got to remember that when the age of the bull ended, they passed over into the age of Aries, into the age of the ram. Okay? So, the Passover is actually a transition of time through the cosmological ages, or the astrological ages, I should say. Verse 13 says, Mark 14 and 13, and he sent forth 2 of his disciples, and said unto them, go ye into the city, and there shall you meet a man bearing a pitcher of water. Follow him. Now wait a minute. Back in these days, culturally, as is noted by the story about the woman at the well, the women carried the water. All right? It was a part of their duties. It was a part of what they did, and in that culture, the women carried the water. Men did not carry water. Okay? As a rule, as a whole. So when you look at this, it is a sign. It is a symbol of a season. That the next Passover has to do with the man carrying the water pitcher. And guess what? What is the sign of Aquarius? It is the man carrying the water pitcher. And then notice what he says in verse 13, last 2 words, follow him. Mark 14 and 14, and wheresoever he shall go in, say ye to the good man of the house, the master saith, where is the guest chamber where I shall eat the Passover with my disciples? Okay, this very poignantly, very plainly is pointing to a transition between the Piscean age into the house of Aquarius. Okay, and he says he's going to show you a large room, and you need to make ready for us because we're coming. We're coming to that spot where the man with the water pitcher in his hand is leading you. That's where you need to go. That's where you need to focus. And by the way, that's where we're going to pass over. So once again, it's talking about a cosmological age, a transition of age, not the destruction of the world. All right, as I said before, the call-in line is open, and for those of you that want to contact me, I want you to either email or stop into the chat room, type in red, and then go from there, all right? Call-in line is open. Feel free to call. You really could have called any time, and hey, just go ahead and do so now. And until then, I'm just going to continue talking about some things that are Aquarian. Being able to be led from the heart, being all in the heart, led from the heart, that's Aquarian. Okay? Because once again, notice, as I said before, there's an overlap, right? There's an overlap of the old and the new. And notice what we have now. Isn't it interesting that just before we would get into the age of Aquarius, we now have streaming, where you're listening to me from streaming audio, an internet radio station where we are streaming into your homes, right? We stream video, we stream audio, we stream television, we can stream movies. Now we stream anything. You stream information into your computer via the internet. Okay, notice how much streaming and, some of the verbiage of Aquarius is even coming into our technology. Okay. Waters are blue, and we have what? Bluetooth technology. Just so many different things that we are saying that is referencing water. The Aquarius. And of course, as many of you out there understand, water, you get to talking about Oya, Yemeya. You get to talking about the goddess. I say let the age of the goddess return again. Brother Thutmose says, Bible study tests, look in Genesis 49 and pick out all 12 zodiac signs. And by the way, they are there. And this is why many of the scholars, I should say a number of the scholars, believe that there were no actual 12 sons of Jacob, but that they were nothing more than constellations up in the sky. That when supposedly Abraham went out, and by the way, Abraham is a moon deity, if you research history. Abraham is taken out of his tent at night, okay, because he's a moon deity. He's taken out of the tent and he's shown the stars of heaven. And he says, so shall your sons and your daughters be. Well, aren't the stars also as numerous, seemingly, as the sands of the sea? Yeah. And it is for these reasons and a number more why they believe that there were no 12 sons, that they're simply zodiac signs. So in Isaiah 49, there are 12 zodiac signs interwoven in between those verses. All right. So I don't have any phones ringing. Looks like our email is tidied up. So you know what we're going to do. I just want to mention just a couple of more points about transitioning into a Aquarian mentality before we close out for tonight. I've often commented, brothers and sisters, on how we are not truly free. Once again, in the Piscean age, the system has developed where we need permission to drive our cars. We need permission for what we can and cannot wear to work. We need permission for everything that we do. We are controlled to the nth degree. We are controlled by what we watch. We're controlled by the literature that's put in our hands. We're controlled by the courses in our colleges. We're controlled every which way you turn. And as this Piscean age really comes to a head, the issue at hand is we must truly be free. We must truly understand who we are and simply live from the heart. Live from the Spirit. Live from that which is eternal. Live from that which can transcend dimensions. Live from that which is eternal, which is your spirit. Because the Piscean age wants to pull on, the physical aspects of dualism. It's, white and black and cold and warm and, rich and poor and, no. In the Aquarian age, which is the switching of the age that we're now going into, the consciousness will elevate as we enter into that paradigm of oneness. Oneness. And we'll stop thinking of God as some old white man sitting on the throne with a long white robe and a long white beard, holding a lightning bolt, waiting to crack your back end the moment you do something wrong. You will begin to see the Creator as all of the cosmos, all of the universe. That the cosmos itself is the divine presence of the Creator, and that which we have called God by so many names is that resides in you, in me, in everything that we see and in everything that we touch. And that God is not this judgmental SOB that hates just about everything that he looks at and only accepts that which is supposedly so righteous and so pure. Okay. So I want to address, and I need, just before we close out, I need Rasta to explain something for me. Rasta says oneness. So it's oneness? Oneness? Teacher, this has nothing to do with your birthright. I'm hoping that Rasta kind of shares with us what's being communicated. What do you want to say, Rasta? Okay, what do you want to say? Because I want to hear what you're saying, and so I'm just going to wait patiently here a little bit. I think I may know some of the questions that are coming. Okay, and just before they do come, let me talk about how we could look at things in the light of oneness. As I mentioned before, the Piscean mentality would look at our 24-hour day period and say, you have 12 hours of light battling against 12 hours of darkness. Okay? But the Aquarian paradigm is this, is that the whole day is one. Oneness. It's one day. It's one 24-hour period. And in this one day, we have the comfort and coolness of night, which restores us and helps us, okay, whereby we sleep, we rest in safety and comfort, There is no battle. No. The night is used to restore the body so that we might work in the day. That's the Aquarian way of looking at the day. Not 12 hours of light battling against 12 hours of darkness. No. So we are looking at seeing that we are all a part of everything. You know, someone put it this way: everything is everything, and you are a part of that everything. You know, talking about oneness, I don't have time to go into how the mad scientists have discovered that each human being has a frequency, and they pointed their instrument that is able to read that frequency. They pointed that out in space, and guess what? They saw that there were individuals registering all over the cosmos, that for each individual here on the planet, there were counterpart individuals all over the universe, which says that if that vibration represents you, and uniquely you, because supposedly it's like your fingerprint, only you have that vibration, but when they point this in space, they see it everywhere. What does that say? That says that there are dimensions of you all over the cosmos, existing in different dimensions and regions of space. And that also says that you are also omnipresent. You are also, just like you've thought about the Creator, you are a divine manifestation of that Creator, and you are in more places at once than what you ever could have imagined. So, brothers and sisters, we will tap into some of these things a little bit more later. But for now, hey, we just want to let you know that we love you, we appreciate you, and we are getting ready to get out of here. But we want to let you know that you can join us, and you can listen to myself by tuning into our 2 different podcasts. You can search them through iTunes. In fact, this show is going to be uploaded, seeing as, you know, I don't know, if the recording went well, it will be. But you'll be able to go to iTunes, type in Mwalimu, my spiritual name, okay, and you will be able to download the 2 podcasts that we have. One is this show called Tracing the Steps of Truth, and the other is where we comment on the book, The Hosea, written by Maulana Karenga. We got to end with this note, though, because Rasta comes back and says, okay, on the teachings, you saying that you are coming in our home with audio and video. Yeah, okay, I'm sorry. Let me read something else. Thutmose says, check out Amos 5 and 8. Seek him or her that makes the 7 stars of Orion, and turneth the shadow of death into the morning, and makes the day dark with night, and calleth for the waters of the sea, and poureth them out upon the face of the earth. So, yeah, I'd have to agree with that, Thutmose, that Amos 5 and 8 is a good scripture to reference what we're talking about. All right, brothers and sisters, hey, I know that we could continue this conversation, but hey, we have extended our time. We are well over, but hey, I want to say that I love each and every one of you, and we will continue the show on next week, so come back next week, have your thinking caps on, and by the way, if some of you want to suggest a topic for our show, you can feel free to do just that. Just send us an email. We love you, we appreciate you, and not only that, but I would just like to really, thank each and every one of you for joining us. I'm glad that you're with us. I'm glad that you are listening, and I just want to say that you really do make my day. But for now, we're going to return you back into the hands of our regularly scheduled broadcast. We love you, we appreciate you, and we say to all of you, may you arise on the wings of Ra, and may you shine love, truth, life, and happiness upon every soul that desires to come out of the darkness. We appreciate you. We love you. And I want to say that it has been a joy. It has been a pleasure. And I'd like for you to join us again next week here on Tracing the Steps of Truth. Ma'at Hotep.